Do you find yourself running out of questions to ask when you're in conversation with someone? This is completely rooted in how comfortable and confident you are in the situation you're in, and how confident and comfortable you are talking to the person that you're talking to. The reason for this is because if you're comfortable and you're feeling confident, inspiration will flow out of your mouth, and thinking of another question to ask will be no problem at all. On the flip side, if you are even remotely uncomfortable or worried about the conversation because of past track record or your own self-esteem, you will find it almost impossible to think of another question on the spot. The pressure is too much. And I have a couple of things that you can do in this situation which will massively help you and will massively increase not only your external confidence, so how you appear to other people, but also how you feel internally. And that's what we're really trying to change. It's only so good for a little bit. I'll say that again. It's only good for a while to fake it till you make it. What we really want to do here is transform your inner confidence so that you don't have to fake it till you make it on the external confidence, right? And the number one thing that you can do when you're in a situation where you're running out of things to say is branch. And this will depend on a couple of things. Potentially, the person you're talking to is extremely difficult, and no matter what question you ask, they're going to give you a one-word answer. The one-word answer is a battle. And unless you're being paid, we're going to come to that in a minute, unless you're being paid to entertain them, if someone keeps giving you a one-word answer, let them hang in comfortable silence. We're going to come to that in a minute. But what you can do if this situation does happen to you regularly, if you find yourself regularly worried about running out of questions, is you can memorize some conversation starters. I'm going to give you a couple now that I like, but if you want the full list of conversations, I've picked 20 of the best conversation topics I've ever found after starting more than 10,000 conversations. I've written them in a list with a really handy guide. It's on my website, alexnorthrule.com. You'll find it there and you can download it for free. You memorize those 20. But here's an example of 2. A big faux pas when you're talking to someone is to go straight in to, oh, so what do you do for work? It's considered not that good in conversation. But what is considered nice in conversation is if you show interest in someone's hobbies, right? So, if you're running out of things to say, ask someone, hey, in your spare time, do you have any projects going on? If they say no, that is a clear indication this person doesn't really have anything to say about themselves. Maybe they're super uncomfortable. I would at this point think, all right, you don't want to talk, no worries. I'm going to move on. If they give a one-word answer for that. The reason you want to ask about their projects is because a lot of the time people hate their job. And if you hate your job, you don't want to talk about it. But if they've got a hobby that they're not embarrassed about, they will love talking about the hobby. And when you ask a question like, do you have any projects outside of work, or what do you do in your spare time? They're going to give you probably more than a one-word answer, which you can then branch off. Do you remember from the other videos what we're talking about is the branching method, which is you don't start a conversation here with a question, when they give you an answer, jump to another one. You keep the flow, so you have the one branch, then you branch off to the side, you branch off to the side. That's one example, which is what projects do you have? What do you do in your spare time? And a recap, the reason you want to do that is because people are much more interested in talking about their projects. Number 2 is you ask for advice. If they are older than you, this works especially well. The question I have used, and one of my closest friends now, this is how I started the conversation with him on the street. I was 26 at the time, and I said, "Excuse me," this is to a complete stranger, who is now one of my closest friends. "Excuse me, if you were 26 again now, how would you spend your time?" Because you're not selling something to someone, people love to give advice. And this is a kind of question that you can't just rattle off. A lot of people, if they just rattle it off, they won't have understood the question, and they'll say, "Oh, actually, I wouldn't change anything. I have no regrets. I wouldn't change anything." And that's not what the question is. The question is, if you were 26 again, now, how would you spend your time? It's not about changing something in the past. It's about asking someone with their frame of reference and their experience, looking at the world now, what would they be doing with their time? These kind of questions are called open-ended questions. And this is how you end up in a situation where you never run out of things to say, which is you're not asking yes or no questions. This isn't a police interview. This is an open-ended conversation, and so you want to be having questions where they can't answer yes or no, that they're interested in answering. So that's, what do you do in your spare time? That's asking for advice. That's a little compliment here and there, and where did you get this jumper? You know, make it genuine. Don't be lying. You've got to be authentic. And I want to come back to the comfortable silence. This is going to be a much longer video, the comfortable silence. But if you're in conversation with someone and you are not being paid to look after them, you are there through choice, they are there through choice, and they are answering with one-word answers, let them sit in comfortable silence. It's a mark of someone real confident that can just sit there in comfortable silence. If you need help, in the first description are all the links to my website where you can get in contact with me. There's a Calendly link where you can book one-on-one coaching. See you there.